Hi, my name's Phil and I like talking about politics. And so, the curious case of the missing tellers. And yes, it does sound like a Sherlock Holmes mystery because it pretty much is. A bizarre set of circumstances occurred during the voting for the Brexit bill yesterday in the Commons that resulted in an amendment to the Brexit bill going through under very strange circumstances. So what I'd like to do is discuss that and also possibly scotch any rumours that it might be some cunning plan. But first, if you find yourself enjoying the video, then please click the like button and subscribe to the channel. So first of all, what I ought to do is to explain the process of voting through amendments for those who are not sure about it. So when a bill passes through the Commons, and by the way, it doesn't have all three of its readings on one day normally, but this is not normal. MPs, of course, may want to propose amendments to it. They maybe go, well, yeah, I'm okay with this bill, but actually you need to change this a little bit, and then I'll be totally delighted with it. And MPs are allowed to propose amendments, and the Speaker decides which ones are likely to have the greatest chance of success, and also make sure they filter out. Sometimes people will put forward amendments that on close inspection the same thing, make sure there's only one of those, that sort of thing. There was a particular amendment proposed by a Labour MP, and what would happen at this point is whoever's proposing it would stand up and push that motion. The Speaker will ask, well, first of all, they'll explain what it's about. They'll explain what it's about, debate it. Other people will have their say. Then the Speaker will stand up and say, right, basically who's in favour of this? A load of people will shout aye, and then I'll say who's opposed to it. A load of people will say no. And then as long as there's a decent number of shouts on both sides, he'll shout out division. They all pile out of the debating chamber into the lobby and then through one of the lobby doors. If they are in favour of the amendment, they'll go through the aye door. If they're not in favour of it, they'll go through the no door, or they'll just sit around scratching the balls because they're abstaining. And then after a period of time, the Speaker will order that the doors be locked. Now, in each of these rooms, the ayes and the noes, there will be two tellers, and they'll be assigned by the Speaker from either side, and it's their job to count the people that went through each one and make sure that everyone agrees on the numbers that went through each lobby door. And then and this is what you see, these tellers then appear in front of the Speaker. When everyone's back in, the Speaker will ask them to read out the result. One of them will read out the results, and then they'll pass the piece of paper to the Speaker, who will also read out the results a little bit more loudly, and then everything happens. And it's either passed or rejected. On this particular occasion, Kinnock, a Labour MP, proposed an amendment, which you can see behind me, but I'll go through it as well. And what happened was, after the division, they all came back, but the no tellers didn't. They hadn't gone along. And it looked like there was a bit of confusion. It looked like there'd been an enormous cock-up. Now, there can't actually be a cock-up because it's the Speaker that announces who the tellers are going to be. They'd have known that. This was deliberate, and that's why people are smelling a rat. For example, look at the situation. The bill has gone through, and it's the Conservatives that were the tellers for the noes. And so Boris Johnson would have had a hand in that because it's basically, people he's selected. And then you have this bizarre situation in the early hours of the morning where the government aborted its attempts to delay the passage of the bill through the Lords. And it all sounds a bit fishy, and people have been saying, has Dominic Cummings got a really cunning plan? Well, I can't say anything at the moment. Has Dominic Cummings got a really cunning plan? And, are they up to something? And obviously you should always look at the situation because, never underestimate the intelligence of a political opponent because that can be costly. Never overestimate your own intelligence just because something's like, it can't do anything. Be a bit careful. However, let's look at what it actually asked them to do. So it inserts into the bill, and it basically says that when the Prime Minister goes and seeks an extension, so I'll read it. It says, implement the agreement between the United Kingdom, blah, 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 outcome, and it talks about including provisions reflecting the outcome of inter-party talks as announced by the Prime Minister on the 21st of May 2019. So that was the Prime Minister, Theresa May. And in particular, the need for the United Kingdom to secure changes to the political declaration to reflect the outcome of these inter-party talks. And then there's an explanatory statement as well. Basically, what this amendment does is it says that when Boris Johnson has to go and seek his extension, assuming, of course, I mean, he doesn't have to seek an extension if one or two conditions exist. Either he's obtained the deal that he says he's totally going to get, or Parliament agrees to no deal. He asks Parliament to vote on no deal, and they go, yeah, all right, we'll leave with no deal. Yeah, fine. Obviously, neither of those things is going to happen. So when he goes for his extension, the purpose of the extension, this amendment is saying, should be for the government to adopt an official policy of changing the political declaration of the withdrawal agreement to reflect those cross-party talks that took place between Labour and the Conservative Party during Theresa May's the final days of her reign, which, by the way, didn't come to any conclusion, so I don't really know what they would adopt, but it says they should adopt them anyway. And then it should go to a vote for Parliament again. Parliament should get a chance to vote for the withdrawal agreement. It is not immediately obvious how this benefits Boris Johnson because, after all, he could do that anyway. I mean, people, may notice that, the withdrawal agreement went up 3 times under Theresa May anyway. Now, yes, there is a rule that you don't put the same motion to Parliament again in the same parliamentary session. But the withdrawal agreement was voted on 3 times. The bar for a change is pretty low. It was never really changed substantially at all. But the Speaker, it was a very important issue. The Speaker was obviously not going to block votes on that. So he sort of turned a bit of a blind eye to the fact that nothing was changing. So did everyone else. And it was voted down. But the thing is, we don't have to worry about that because Johnson is starting a new session of Parliament in mid-October. That's why he's shutting Parliament down to begin a new session. When a new session begins, you can put forward motions that have come up before. There's no problem at all. And in fact, because this would be Boris Johnson, it's a totally new Prime Minister, you could argue he'd be able to do it anyway, because maybe the fact that it's a different Prime Minister makes it substantially different. I guess it does. So all this amendment is doing, because it's pushed forward by a Labour MP who actually wants to leave the EU, but wants to leave with a deal. He doesn't want to leave with no deal. And that was purely the basis of it. And all it requires is that Boris Johnson lets Parliament, he changes the political declaration to, to be honest, I don't even know what Kinnock wants him to change it to. Nothing was agreed, but he wants him to change it and then put it up for another vote. Well, fine. Johnson could have done that anyway. Corbyn could have done that anyway. Any MP who might have got enough support in the House could have done that anyway. You'd expect the government to do it. So that doesn't gain him anything. So what's the reason for it? The only plausible explanation I have seen from anyone is the fact that Boris Johnson didn't want this going to a vote at all, but he couldn't stop it. So what he did is he knackered it, even though it means it goes through. That's fine. He doesn't care about that so much, simply because he didn't want a vote to be made public that might indicate that there's a lot of support in Parliament for a deal. Remember, he's trying to take us out with no deal. The last thing he wants is to create a situation where you might get a lot of MPs saying they want a deal. Because remember, just because it's only the no-tellers that didn't do their job, there is no official record. I don't even know the numbers that voted in favour of it. I suspect it wasn't that many, but I don't know. Because there was no division effectively. It's like there was no division. It's like it just passed automatically. Well, it did pass automatically. I don't know what the vote was. No idea. No idea at all. It's not now going to be a matter of public record because we don't know. Yet another reason for having electronic voting, quite frankly, for MPs in this situation. Then you don't need the tellers. But anyway, that's it. That's all there is to it. Every legal expert, obviously all the, Labour especially have been getting legal advice on this. Does it do something cunning? Lots of people have been seeking legal advice, the best legal advice. In fact, it's consistently the best legal advice from constitutional experts is, no, it doesn't do anything. This amendment is just an amendment from someone who wants us to leave the EU with a deal. That's it. It's just a way of saying, let's not take the withdrawal agreement off the table, because that's the situation we're in at the moment. It's pretty clear politically, not legally, but politically, there is only no deal and no Brexit. There isn't the government are not trying to get a deal across anymore. The opposition are not. Nobody at the moment in Parliament is trying to get a deal through. And this guy was just saying, look, there are some of us who want to leave with a deal, and let's not forget this. That's all this amendment was. So there's nothing cunning. in it at all. I still don't know the reason why the government backed down. And yes, I refer to my earlier statement, always be careful. Don't think you're cleverer than your opponent. But this is legal experts saying there's nothing in this. You can look at it yourself. There's really nothing in it, is there? There's nothing. And actually, it hinders the case for a no-deal Brexit, if anything. Hinders it. So that's all there is to that. Hope you found the video interesting. If you'd like to support the channel further, then please click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.